This is me again. I wanted to take the time to make a video about using spacers and adapters on your vehicle. Now, this vehicle that I'm using is my wide body CL55 Mercedes 2003, the W215 chassis. I have a big advantage with this car, and some may call it a disadvantage because I have to use spacers and adapters, but I have a very big advantage with this car because I have an added 3 to 4 inches of width because of the wide body. So I use anywhere between, I've used 10.5 to 12 inch wide wheels, typically 20-inch wheels. The factory wheels on this car was, I think, in the rear, maybe 9 inches wide. But so I have the ability to go pretty crazy with my wheel choices. But I call it a disadvantage, or some may call it a disadvantage, because I have to use spacers and adapters. Unless I found like a 13 or 14 inch wide wheel with the proper offset that really stuck out flush, or the way that I want it to sit on the fender. I haven't done that, haven't found that, so I choose to use adapters and spacers. Now, here goes a lot of different spacers and adapters, a variety. Now, people are always concerned about the safety of these things. Also, the reliability, what material are they made out of, what type of aluminum. I'm not going to go in great detail about material because I'm limited, because I didn't really prepare for this video. I typically, if I don't know, I try not to talk about it. I know that there are types of aluminums that are better. I think forged aluminum is the best. I don't know the numbers, maybe 775. I don't even know. But the point I'm trying to make is you do have to be concerned about the quality of them. You do have to be concerned with where you're buying them from. Oftentimes on eBay, they sell the expensive ones, they sell the cheap ones. I've used, I think, all of them. And I have to say, I have to admit, I have not had any issues. And I think a big part of it is preparation, taking your time and doing it right. Also, I know that a big part of it is quality. I mean, that's just common sense. So don't buy the cheapest, but you don't have to buy the most expensive. That's the best advice I can say. Also, regarding Mercedes, and this I can speak of from experience, use a hub-centric spacer. Now, what you're seeing here, that this is a hub-centric spacer onto the hub, but when you put the wheel on there, it's not hub-centric. And I always use hub-centric adapters. You see the ones with the lip, because they center the wheel perfectly onto the adapter. But there have been times where I have had to use one without a lip on the outer diameter of the hub. The reason why I had to do that with this wheel in particular, this fine metal, is because the 12-inch wide one has a center bore of 57.1. That's too small. The Mercedes is a 66.6. Audi typically uses this 57.1. There are Audi models that use that. So if your bore on your hub is 57.1 and you have a 57.1 wheel, it's hub-centric, meaning it'll go directly on there and it'll be stable and it'll be centered. In my case, I have a 66.6, so I cannot use an adapter that has a 66.6 lip on there, or hub, or outer adapter, or whatever you call them. The outer measurement of this right here is 66.6. It's okay for it to be here, but not here for this wheel. Every wheel I've ever put on here has always had the proper 66.6. Didn't know that this one didn't. Now my front does. My front has a 66.6, but that's a 10.5 wide one. This right here, my 12-inch wide one, has a 57.1. Now, my ET, now it's upside down, is a 42. So it's tucking in more. Remember, if your number is lower, the wheel will stick out further from the body of the car, or from the hub of the car. A higher number, this is 42, it tucks in more. Remember that. Lower number sticks out. Higher number tucks in. That's why on a lot of trucks, you see like a negative 22 or something like that. That means they stick out far from the body. Okay, all that is important because it depends, it determines, it is a factor when determining what type of adapter to use, how you want the car to stick out. So I needed an 1.5 inch wide adapter in order to get my wheels to stick out the way that I wanted to stick out. I like it to be slightly past the fender. I always stretch my tires. You see here, I always stretch my tires away from the wheel a little bit. And this is a 305, and I still stretch the tire so that I can make sure I can get the car kind of low on the rim. And when it bounces, I don't have to worry about it scraping or catching the tire on the inner lining. And also I like the lip of the rim to stick out a little bit. I think it's a pretty look. I like that. You know, it's a nice custom look. Now, I do have a whole nother set of these. I have another set of the 10.5s and the 12s. So I might go with a wider tire, just to have an option. You know what I mean? I can go with, like I said, a 335, 315, 325. I have a lot of, you know, it just depends on the availability of the tire and how much I want to spend on the tire. But I can get another set mounted on my rims and, okay, whatever, have an option to be able to swap rear tires or wheels and traction, depending on what I'm trying to do. If I ever want to put this thing on the track, then I can do that. Go with an even wider tire anyway. So all those things you have to take into consideration. How wide are you trying to go with your tire? How far away from your car do you want your rim to stick out? What size adapter to use? On most cars, you don't need adapters. But when you start customizing cars, especially if you had a body kit, you got to do some things like this. But if you buy a wheel used, a brand new even, you typically beforehand need to look at what your offset is. Because if you have a high offset where it sticks in, you're going to need adapters. If the offset is too high and it sticks out too far, well, you're kind of wet. Ain't nothing you can do about that. But when you start using adapters, make sure that you do these calculations and these measurements to know how thick, meaning from here to here, from here to here, how thick of an adapter you need to go. I think typically anytime you go beyond like 1 inch or maybe 20 millimeters, that's less than 1 inch. Also keep in mind millimeters, these are usually measured in millimeters, sometimes standard inch, 1.5 inches, whatever, 2 inches. But oftentimes they are in millimeters, metric. 1 inch is approximately 25 millimeters, know that. 1 inch is approximately 25 millimeters, okay? This is a 2-inch adapter, big dog. All right, or is that 3 inches? Yeah, that's 2 inches. I think it is. I can't remember. I got so much crap I can't remember. Yeah, that's 2 inches because that's 1 inch. So that's 50 millimeters. I needed that for that 10.5 Boston. This is a very nice one too, by the way. I do recommend them. That thing was perfect. It's centered perfect. No shakes, no rattles, no rolling. Well, a lot of rolling. It was very smooth, no vibration, at very fast speeds. I do recommend this brand. Blocks. I think they're Chinese or something, but they're very good quality. People usually say, oh, you buy USA. Shit, yeah, all right. That's why most of you tuners are buying cars from overseas, but buy USA. Some things US, makes better. Some things they don't. Some things German kills them. Some things Japan, China. I mean, come on, man. When it comes to these cars and everything, it's a global thing. It's not a US thing. So sometimes, US manufacturing does do a better job. Sometimes they don't. So I'm not going to just, say buy only US adapters. Not true. Know what you're buying. Do your research. Read your reviews. Be smart. All right. Don't be naive or gullible or just believe the hype. Do your research. Don't be ignorant. All right. Back to this. So when I use my adapters, I use Loctite. Oh, God. Did I just do that? I use Loctite. This right here. Now, there are different ones. There's a blue, which is the type that you can put on there, and it'll, with enough force, you can break it loose. Okay, I don't know them all. I think there's 3 or 4. But this right here is supposed to be the permanent one, right? This is purple. Permanent nut and bolt adhesive. Where do I use this at? I use this on the bolts. In my case, I have lug bolts, not lug nuts. I have lug bolts that goes into the hub. So when I am using this type of adapter, where it has to be secured to the hub, I put Loctite on there. Now, I use the permanent. Why? Because I'm strong. because I'm using this. You know, you're using something, a tool to break them loose that can really, with enough strength, break that permanent Loctite loose. When you're using smaller screws and things that you cannot put as much force on using a cheater bar, then you have to put heat on it. So you have to use like a torch or whatever to get it to a certain temperature. I think 500 degrees, and then it will compromise the strength of this Loctite. You're able to break it loose. But that's, you know, I use them on my bolts that keep my adapter to the hub, and I'm able to always break it loose. But it's on there tight. The purpose of that is to make sure that they don't back out. You don't want those backing out. You want it tight. You don't want it backing out because you can't see them back out until your car starts shaking and then immediately your wheel comes off. You don't want that. Watch videos on YouTube. It happens. Be smart. Be calculated. Be careful. Know what you're buying. Take your time. Okay? I use Loctite on my lug bolts. Just the ones that go into the hub. Make sure it's hub centric on the inside. You see how it's sitting on that hub, that little part that protrudes out of the hub? It's hub centric. Again, being that I have a 57.1 and this is a 66.6 hub, I cannot use the ones with the 66.6 lip on a 57.1. I have to use non-hub outers, non-hub eccentric outers. And so the key to putting this wheel on here is to do a star pattern. I tighten them up by hand first. That allows the acorn style nuts, or even the, what do you call them, the ball seated nuts. It allows them to center on the wheel. You do a star pattern, you do it by hand. I had this is a 12 by 1.5 for the previous adapters that I had. These adapters here are 14 by 1.5. What I'm talking about is diameter of the thread. So I'm able to use thicker, where are you at? Acorn nuts. All right, let me show you. All right, these are my acorn nuts that I'm using to attach the wheels to the adapter. These are 14 by 1.5. Previously I had 12 by 1.5. These are thinner. I think they're not the safest when you're dealing with a lot of horsepower. You kind of want the thicker outer thread in the nuts. You want the things you can get just for strength. But these were the 12 by 1.5, and that's all I had at the time. I just ordered I ordered a couple days ago adapters, 1.5 inch, 14 by 1.5, and these are the ones that came. Well, I had these already, but it came with some. Came with these, but they're not pretty. All right, whatever. All right, so these are what I'm putting on there. 14 by 1.5. All right, so these are going there just fine. Do a star pattern when you attach these. When you put your wheel on there, hold it up there. Don't just hammer it on. Do one at a time. Do them by hand. Star pattern, meaning boom, 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 boom. All right, do that, and then I use an electric impact drill. Hold on, let me grab my stuff. Oh yeah, I have a variety of different lug bolts and lug nuts. Where they at? There they go. You have to. When you start customizing wheels and everything, you got to have some options. You got to have a lot of options. You got to be ready. It's just what it is. I've ordered so much stuff, it's ridiculous. Just over the years. I think I've had like 7 different wheels on this car. Yes, whatever. So, star pattern. When you put this wheel on there, star pattern. All right. So you're going to do boom, 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 boom. Start back here, and this allows you to center the wheel. It is always important, but it's even more important when you don't have a lip for your wheels to sit on to center it. Now, these being thicker, there's less play when you put the wheel on here. It's less play with these 14 by 1.5. It was more play with the 12 by 1.5 because they were thinner. But you still always have to do the star pattern. When you start hammering on there, it's going to have some wobble and some shake. And if you have wobble and shake with adapters or spacers, you are in trouble, because that compromises the strength and integrity of your adapters. And oftentimes they will fail if they're not properly balanced. So again, just as a review before I end this video, because I gotta put this wheel on there and I gotta put this phone down. The most important factors are: do your calculations, know your offsets, know what kind of hub size you're dealing with, know how far out you want your wheel to sit. That determines the width of your adapter or spacer. Also, buy a high quality adapter or spacer. Do your research regarding that. Make sure you have all the tools that you need. Make sure you have the necessary adapters. I have so many of these. Know what kind of lug bolts or nuts that you're going to go with. There's a lot of options out there. You might make some mistakes and order stuff that you don't need. You can always return them, but once you use them, you can't return them typically. And just be careful. Know what your hub size is. If you need adapters, know what adapters you need. Do your research. Take your time. Make sure you use, I use Loctite. You can use the blue, which I said breaks free easily or easier. I choose purple. Make sure you have it on there secure and tight. Go over it again and again. Make sure it's on there tight. When you put the wheel on, make sure you do a star pattern. After you drive for, depends on how much you drive your vehicle. After you drive a couple days on it, go back and retighten them. I'm not talking about retightening these, retighten these. So keep that wrench out, all right? Keep that socket out in the cheater bar or whatever you use to tighten your wheels. I use a cheater bar. I use an extra long bar right there. It's not really called a cheater bar if it's already made long. Cheater bar would be what you attach to it. But anyways, whatever tool you use to tighten these joints, make sure they're tight. You can use factory recommendation and all that, but of how tight to do it, but I don't. I do it by hand. I know how strong I am. I know how tight they are. I've done this long enough where I'm comfortable making sure that they're tight without having to do like a measurement as to how tight, whatever. So anyways, make sure you know what you're doing, okay? Do your research. There's too much information out there for you to be ignorant. Don't be ignorant. Do your research. Do your due diligence. If you have any questions or recommendations, or you think I could have done this video better, or if I missed some points, please let me know. I'm just talking off of experience. I'm not ASC certified, but I am BG certified. I have my own experience off of what I do. So if there's a way that I can do it better, let me know. Tell me what you think. In my opinion, adapters are safe if you do it the right way. All right? Holla at me. Bye.